Good morning, friends. My name is Darren St. George, and welcome to another Monday morning program with Sal St. George. If this is your first time joining us, welcome to the party. If you've been with us before, welcome back. It is always a pleasure to see you because this is how we start each and every week, celebrating entertainment's leaders, legends, and icons. And speaking of icons, we have a spectacular one for you today. We are heading to Austin, Minnesota to visit the Spam Museum. We'll be joined by Seville Lord, the manager of the Spam Museum, as well as Terry Bergstrom, the lead Spambassador. A fantastic title. I just love it the more I read it. If you have any questions, I'd love to share them with Terry and Seville, as well as Sal. And speaking of everybody's favorite top banana, Sal, Dad, are you there?
And good morning to everybody. Thank you, Spam Museum, for allowing us to come into your beautiful establishment. And this, it's what's kind of funny is this isn't about unwanted emails. This is okay.
All right, Seville, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Good morning,
Good morning,
everyone. So that was a wonderful, wonderful pun. I love that. We have, a 12-ounce can of meat that we are going to talk to you about today. So we are absolutely thrilled to be visiting with you all.
Now, how long have you been with the museum?
I have been with the museum now just about 8 years.
Okay.
And I came from the East Coast, from a little town in Maryland, came out to Minnesota, and here I am running a museum in Austin that brings in 100,000 visitors a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of spam.
It's an incredible amount of spam. And to this day, if you can believe this, Sal, we're actually on our 8th year of year-over-year sales for a brand that is 87 years old.
Now, well, I don't know how to begin this, but in a nutshell, what is spam?
Oh, well, we are going to get into that during our tour. So why don't we hold off on that question for just a little bit? But I will hint that there are very few ingredients to spam, and you are going to learn so much about the Spam brand before you leave here today. You are just going to be, your mind is going to be blown because you're never going to have believed that there was quite this much to the story.
Well,
Okay.
Speaking of surprises, I already have one here. Our listeners never stop surprising us, and we have Anna, a longtime follower. She's writing in from Austin, Texas, and telling us about the Spamorama. Are you familiar with this, Seville?
Yes, we are. Yes.
It's an annual festival since 1978 that celebrates all things spam, including a spam cook-off, the Spam Olympics, and the Spam Jam.
Yeah. So there is each state seems to take on this absolute pride in celebrating spam. And Texas, being as unique as it is, has just done a wonderful job of encapsulating everything spam and just making it such a fun event. And then actually we'll talk a little bit about our spam event that occurs in Hawaii as well. So then they are both almost in competition with each other about how great they are because they've really taken it to the next level. And that is one of the most continuous events going on in the United States.
Now, did you know anything about spam prior to getting this job?
I did not. So, can you believe I've worked for Hormel Foods now for 10 years? And Hormel Foods, just so everybody kind of is on the same page, is the company that owns Spam. And Hormel Foods is based here in Austin, Minnesota. And that is why the home of Spam is here in Austin, Minnesota. And so actually, when the position became available, this museum has been around for close to 30 years in different operations. So it started as a 100-year anniversary museum for the Hormel Foods Company. And they did this awesome thing. They made it was in a mall, and the door, if you can imagine, of this first century museum was actually a Spam can. And so when you walked in it, you thought, oh, I'm going to learn everything about Spam. And then there was only a little corner dedicated to Spam, and people would come in and they were a little disappointed. So we got the message, and we opened up a Spam museum that was down the road from us, that was down for about 13 years. And it was a wonderful museum, but it was right off the highway. Now, where we are in Minnesota, we are halfway between Chicago, Illinois, and the Black Hills of South Dakota. And so the Spam Museum is a wonderful little stop for people to take on when they're on their road trips. Well, here you go. You're on your road trip. You get off the highway. You visit the museum, and then they would end up getting right back on the highway. They would never actually experience our community. So we changed our focus, brought the museum downtown Austin, and it lands here today for the past 8 years so that people can come in and really be able to experience our community and be able to see a little bit more of our town.
That's
the people
fantastic.
the people downtown must have been thrilled that you were moving your location.
Yes, well, with thousands and thousands of visitors coming in on an average day, on an average month, it really does help support those businesses. And we started when we came downtown, we had 7 open storefronts. And to this day, I do not believe we have an empty one.
I think that really is outstanding. So many museums that we visit around the country are these small museums, and they are in concert with their local community, trying to find a way to support one another. And right away, you did one of your first big moves was move downtown, support that local business, and
very
fantastic.
clever.
Yep.
And the cool thing about the Spam Museum is it is 100% free. So people coming in here don't have to worry about spending the money here. They can go out into the community, have lunch, go to a shop, spend their money somewhere else, not having to worry about spending it in the museum.
Wow.
Well, I think we have people that are eager to get into your museum.
Yay! We hope so. We hope so. Well, Terry and I are going to take you on a little tour, and we're just going to share everything you need to know about kind of what makes us one of the coolest spots I would say you will find in the Midwest, hands down. So Terry, do you want to jump on and say hello before we get started?
Hello from behind the camera. My name is Terry. I'm a Spam ambassador here at the Spam Museum. Very proud to be here. I was born and raised in Austin. Just a little bit about me. And I am a 3rd generation Hormel Foods worker. So very proud to say I was raised on Spam and other products of Hormel, and just proud to be a representative of a company that provides sustenance and aid around the community and the world. So
Terry, what are we looking at, Terry? The George Hormel, the cart.
Yeah, so now I figured that just going along, Savile will probably start right here in history. So I'm bringing you over to our history section so she can start telling you about how the company got started. So you'll see that it was the George A. Hormel and Company, and we started here in 1891.
And this is our wagon, and it just kind of showcases one of the ways in which the food was transported throughout the Midwest in the very, very beginning parts of our company. And we're going to turn here to the right, and we're going to look at our photo wall and kind of get our beginning introduction into the Hormel Foods Company. We're going to start giving you just a bit of a history of Hormel Foods itself before we go into a little bit more about Spam, because you have to understand kind of where we came from first before you understand the rest. So here we are.
Hold on one second. Darren, how can we get the picture of the museum
larger?
No, because we're only getting the speaker at this point. We're not getting the museum.
Oh, you should be able to see all 3 pop. That may just be you. If you look up at the top of your Zoom window, there's a little thing that says view, and it has a series of boxes. If you select that, then you can select gallery view, and that's what you're looking for.
There it is. I got it. Thank you.
Also, though, I'll say this is a fun conversation today in the chat. We're talking about Spam sushi, which sounds delicious.
Spam musubi. We'll get into that in just a little bit too. Good. We have some Spam fans here.
Yeah.
And chili.
Yeah, praising the chili. They're saying the location looks outstanding, which we've barely seen any, but I couldn't agree more. And a question here from Ellen, where do you get your funding? I think this is a response to the fact that the museum is free.
Free. Yes. So we are 100% funded by the Hormel Foods Company. Yes.
See, that's what museums need. They need to open their own packaged food brands.
Yes.
Johnny Carson crackers, and it'll be much easier to fund these organizations.
I love that. And we are extremely lucky. Extremely lucky.
Yeah. So all right, let's get started. Let's meet these wonderful people. Who are we looking at?
All right. So here on the right-hand side, we are going to see George and Lillian Hormel. They are the individuals, specifically George, who founded the Hormel Foods Company. On the left-hand side are his mother and father. They came from Germany, and they brought their family to actually New York. So their family started in New York and then came from New York to actually Toledo, Ohio. They spent about a couple of years in Toledo, Ohio. And when George was in about 1875, when George was about 12 or 13 years old, he actually left home and he went to Chicago, Illinois. And in Chicago, Illinois, he actually became a meat packer. I'm going to show the pictures in the center first, and those are his brothers and sisters. He was the third child, and at some point in time, every one of his brothers and sisters did come to the Hormel Foods Company to work. So that was really just absolutely wonderful. So George was born and raised in Toledo. He was born in New York, but then raised in Toledo, Ohio. And at the age of 13 or 14, he did go to Chicago, Illinois to become a meat packer to work with his uncle, J. Decker. Well, and that was a really big time in his life because as a young man, he needed to learn quite a bit about what it meant to kind of own a business. His father had been a hide seller, but his mother had come from a very long-standing German family that had been in the meatpacking business as well. So he did know quite a bit about meatpacking, but when he was helping to raise some money for his family, by going to Chicago, he was able to learn really everything about the meatpacking trade. So here he is. He's about 14 years old and working 6 days a week for, I believe, about $10 a month. He decided that he wanted a little bit more money. So he ended up leaving and going to a little town in in Iowa, right around the Des Moines area. And he became a fur trader at that point in time. And his route came up through southern Minnesota. Here is some of the furs that he would actually move. And very laborious work, but he was extremely good at it. So he became a salesman, and he had a route that would come from northern Iowa through southern Minnesota. And he would stop in here at the town of Austin. This was the most northern part of his route. And here he would land. And as a young gentleman, now about the age of 17, 18, he would start spending some time in southern Minnesota. And really became to love the town. He loved the people. He really enjoyed his activities here. So he'd end up spending the weekend because otherwise he would just be going home to nothing. So he had made some friends, and so he ended up spending some time here. Well, fast forward a couple of years when he decided it was time for him to get serious. You know, it was time for him to kind of settle down a little bit. And Terry, if you will turn around, he ended up going into business with a gentleman. And this actually, it's kind of cool because this building is directly across the street here at the museum. And it is he opened up a provision market with another gentleman who was going to be doing the selling part at the front, and he was going to do the meatpacking part in the back.
So a provision market, basically, that's a general store?
Yes, a general store. And so they would sell pepperonis, salamis, different cuts of meat. They would do peanut butter. They would do lard. it was really very cool. And one kind of cool fun fact is if here is a picture of our provision market. And I'm not sure if Terry will be able to get close enough, but each of the meats is actually wrapped separately. So one piece of meat will have maybe 4 strings on it. Another piece of meat will have like 5 strings on it. We'll wait 1 second while she zooms in. You'll see how each of them is different, wrapped differently. And the key to that was if you did not speak English, let's say you spoke French and or you spoke German, you could go into the shop and be able to point and say, that is the meat that I want, because you knew that was going to be salami or that was going to be pepperoni, depending on how many ties it had and how it was strung. So that was a really cool little piece. But back to George. So George worked in this provision market for about 4 years with a gentleman by the name of Antoine Friedrich. And at that point, Antoine was very happy just continuing a business. He just wanted to kind of own one shop. But George had these big ideas. He wanted to become a conglomerate. He wanted to grow his operation and really have a lot more impact on the meat packing business than just having one shop. So he ended up parting ways with Anton. And we'll turn back around to the photo wall. And he ended up buying an abandoned creamery, and with one other gentleman who's named George, who is now on their 5th generation of Hormel employee here at Hormel Foods, started the Hormel Foods Company. They bought this abandoned creamery. They ended up building the smokestack on the left-hand side so that they could actually smoke the meat. And by 1894, they had 12 employees. Now, if you'll see to the left, 6 to 7 years later, this is inside that packing house. This is George here on the right-hand side. He has this giant cleaver in his right hand. He was not a small man. That's a 3-foot cleaver. But you'll also notice how clean everything is. There isn't a lot of, there isn't meat on the floor. George had learned, because his family had been in the meat packing business for years and he had spent so much time in Chicago, that dirty meat goes bad while you're looking at it. But fresh meat stays fresh longer. And if you want to make a profit, you have to have meat you can sell. So keeping it fresh and good was so important. And then to the left is 1901. Hormel Foods was created in 1891. But here you'll see the actual plant that we have built on from today. I mean, just
Curing fine hams and bacon.
George started small, and just so quickly he was building. Now we'll look at one more photo on this wall before we leave, and that will be to the far right underneath George, and that is Jay. And Jay is the other side of this story. Jay is that little baby in the bucket. George, when he was here, met a woman by the name of Lillian, and they married. And they had one child, and his name is Jay. And Jay is the other person who really brought this Hormel Foods Company to what it is today. George, master marketer, really good at producing and butchering and selling meat. His son had amazing ideas, and we'll get into that now. So we'll go over to the Hormel ham. The creamery that became the slaughterhouse was right on the Cedar River. So right in downtown Austin here. So this is the Hormel ham. So we will have George Hormel takes on the company and leads it for about 10, 15 years. And then he hands it over to his son in about 1925, 1927. His son became president. Now, the cool thing about his son is that his son was just always had an idea. If you guys have ever heard of a fat trap in your sink, it would collect all the fat from the different things you had created. And he would actually end up going house to house, Jay would, and he would buy your little fat trap for 5 cents or 3 cents, and then he would sell it to his dad for 5 cents. So he was always making a profit, always had an idea of how to make money, always had these ways of going and growing and presenting things. So he was really just fantastic. So in 1927, we have the Hormel ham. Now, the idea behind this is 100% where Spam came from. So what this is a fully cooked ham in its own can. Now, Jay had ended up meeting a gentleman in World War I, that he was able to, who was a master canner. And this master canner came to the United States and worked with Jay over a number of years to figure out how to cook a ham in its own can. Now, what is neat about this is we had canned vegetables at that point in time, and you had canned tuna, but a fully cooked meat in its own can was unheard of. So they had taken a couple of years to perfect this process and put this item out onto the market in 1927. The idea behind it was that if you were cooking ham from raw, it would take 8 hours, 9 hours to do from the ovens that they had in that day. But if you were able to take a ham fully cooked and then just put it in the oven, you were saving many, many hours from specifically the women who were doing the majority of the cooking, for them to have time to do other things. So Jay was always very, very forward thinking in his ideas of women and his ideas of other individuals, which we'll get to in a second. So we will then move on because our next item is Dinty.
Hold on 1 second. Hold on. We have a question from one of our guests. Why were they buying fat?
Well, buying fat was the son. So Jay Hormel, when he was little, would buy these little fat traps from his neighbors to sell because they would then feed those to the animals. So that is the reason he was selling it then to his dad, because his dad would then feed the pigs.
Yeah, I remember reading about during World War II, women had what they call fat cans in their kitchen, and they used that for cooking.
Yes. Yep. They would do that as well. So the excess that they would have, though, if they could make some money off of it, they would rather do that. So when somebody came around looking to, give you a little cash, they were more than willing to part because they had usually so much.
Yep. Also, we have a question. Where was the creamery that became a slaughterhouse?
I think I answered that. It was right on the Cedar River, right next to, it was right in downtown Austin.
Perfect.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we're going to move on to the Dinty Moore stew. Now, Dinty Moore is a product that is still sold today. It came out in 1935, and Dinty Moore was actually the advent of an excess of 500,000 cans that had been left over from a Depression-era program that had ended. Well, Jay had these 500,000 cans, and during that time of the Depression, you didn't waste anything. So he came up with a meal that hardworking European immigrants would enjoy, and gave it the Dinty Moore name. Now, Dinty Moore was the name of a character in a comic strip at that time that was very popular. So by giving him this name, you went into the grocery store and you were automatically comfortable with the Dinty Moore product because you knew of this comic strip. And we were then able to do some cross promotion with this product in different comic strips, so cross-promoting the Dinty Moore product in these comic strips to continue to push the advertising advent of the product. So you'll see here some of the different Dinty Moore cans, and Dinty Moore is continuously sold today. It's just an amazing product that just has this long life.
Is that comic strip still alive?
It is not. No, unfortunately not. And the one that we're showing up above is called Puck. That was the name of that comic strip, and that was one of the first comic strips that they did that cross promotion with Dinty Moore and with Spam. Another product that came out in 1935 was one of our guests' favorites, chili, Hormel chili. Now, when Jay came to his father and said, Dad, I have this idea for this new product that I want to put out, his father said, you are crazy. There is no way that Midwesterners are going to like something as spicy as chili. But Jay had been down in the Southwest near Albuquerque, New Mexico, and Southern California, and he had enjoyed chili and tried it and thought that it was something that he could put on to the rest of the country. And so he came up with this product, Hormel Chili, and he actually created a song and dance troupe that would go around the country promoting the product. They were men and women who would go around and play musical instruments and sing and dance. And he did something unique. He actually offered double your money back to whomever didn't like the product. So if you, and this was the first time that this actually had occurred, that he would say, you know, you don't like this, and you bought it for 5 cents, we'll give you 10 cents in return. That was not often taken advantage of because people were enjoying it so much. But again, that canned product that really took Hormel Foods from being that meat packer to the center of the store that totally changed the game for Hormel Foods. And 2 years later, Spam came out. So this is the end of our history story. But in 1937, now Spam was actually a product that had already been out on the market for a couple of years that had been called spiced ham. Terry is going to show you that can. Now the spiced ham had competition. There were 3 or 4 other knockoffs of this spiced ham product that people had on the market. And so Jay Hormel wanted to change the name of it, rebrand it, and put it back on the market so that it would do better and stand out amongst its competitors. Now, the cool thing about the can of Spam is it was the shape. The shape and size of it was fashioned after the idea that if you cut a can of Spam into 4 or 5 slices and put it on 2 slices of bread, you could feed the average American family. The front of it has not changed. It's still this rectangular can. The only thing actually changing about it is how you open it. Now, before we go into how you open it, where did the name Spam come from? You guys are like, Spam, what does that stand for? Well, in 1936, Jay Hormel had this product he was about to launch. It came out July 5th of 1937, and he said, I need this name. So he ended up hosting a New Year's Eve party, and at the New Year's Eve party, he ended up offering up $100 to whomever could come up with the name for this new product. Now, in 1937, $100 was a decent amount of cash. And apparently, about the 3rd or 4th round of drinks, people truly started getting creative, and they came up, one of the guests named Kenneth Gagnow, who was actually the nephew of one of the vice presidents of the Hormel Foods Company, came up with the name Spam. You're right, Gail. I think it's Gail.
Yep, Gail.
The SP from spiced and the AM from ham. Spam. So it's just been a wonderful story to be able to tell. Now, Terry is going to show the different ways that we've opened the can. Many of you may remember, and many of you might not remember the actual key that they used to open the can. It was glued to the bottom of the can. You would take it off. You would attach it to a little lift and then start turning and turning. And about the 5th or 6th turn, when your hand started getting tired, you might switch to a pliers and use that to continue the turning process so that you wouldn't ruin your wrist. This was a main way of opening the can of Spam for over 50 years. They then transferred over to another type of opening, and that was a side can opener. So you'll see this on the blue side, the blue can on the right-hand side. It was a finger pull, and it was on the side of the can. So you'd actually open it up from the side and then kind of shake the Spam out from there. Well, That wasn't ideal. Still created a lot of sharp edges, wasn't maybe the safest way to do things. So but that one stuck around again about 20 years or so until they switched to a single finger pull. We started with a single finger pull, and then in about 1999, we switched to a 2-finger pull, which is how they have it today. And they have the finger, you'll see the one on the left is the one with the single finger pull. That's hard to say. Then the one on the right is the 2-finger pull. And that was really made for people with arthritis so that they would have a little bit of an easier time opening that can up. It was a corner open so that you would create that leverage that you needed to pop the top off. And then we're able to remove it from there.
Now, Hormel looks like it's a very innovative company. They're always looking to better themselves.
Yes.
What is the difference between the original Spam recipe and the recipe that we're seeing today?
Oh, very, very little. So the original recipe is 6 ingredients. And we will go into those 6 ingredients in just a little bit. But today now, and has only had one additional ingredient since it started back in 1937. So there are now over 12 varieties of Spam. So that means that there are a lot of other options that they can, of ingredients that they then can add. So Sal, in one more room, two more rooms, we're going to share more about the ingredients of Spam.
Okay.
I'm
patient.
We have a fun question from Larry. He's wondering if you have ever thought of or tried making a kosher version of Spam using tofu or seitan or plant-based meats.
We have thought about it, but we really have to be true to the original intention of Spam. There is a vegan Spam out there that is not within the Hormel Foods family. So I do know it exists, but we have stuck to our tried and true, which is a meat product.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
We do have turkey Spam, though.
Oh.
Yeah.
And another question. During World War II, what was, because that seems to be what I remember reading about, that Spam was very important to the GIs.
Oh, Sal, it's like you read my mind.
Okay.
Sal, we are going to turn now to our military section.
So, Sal, can I just interject while I'm here? Is this can, since you're going into World War II, this can right here.
In the middle, it's black and white.
Yeah. So that'll be that was because of World War II.
Can that they actually created during World War II, and it is black and white because there was actually a ration on ink.
Yeah. All right.
So
here we go.
1937, Spam comes out. 1941, World War II breaks out. And that has a huge impact on the country at large. So in 1941, we end up starting the government starts up the Lend-Lease Act. And we end up shipping Spam to our allies who are helping us fight the war. So mainly to Britain and mainly to Russia. And so we would ship Spam all over, not only to feed our own troops, but to help feed our allies as well. And from what we understand, Nikita Khrushchev, in fact, tells us that without Spam, his military would not have been able to make it through the mountains of Russia in order to help fight the war. And as England is an island, they also had some difficulties because at multiple points in time, they were actually surrounded by submarines. And so we ended up actually airdropping Spam into their country. By 1945, 90% of the food that Hormel Foods was making was going to the war effort. And that didn't just include Spam. It included a lot of other different cut meat products as well as canned products as well. And what we did was in 1942, we sent 1,300 of our workers to fight in the war. When we did that, we ended up having to bring in a number of women to come take their place in the plant so that we could continue to produce products. Sal, I feel like you have another question.
No, I'm good.
Okay. So when they did that, they brought in the wives, the daughters, the sisters of the males who had been working in the plant. They brought 1,300 women into the plant to help produce that product because Hormel Foods' main flagship plant here in Austin became a war facility. And so in order to do that, we needed to continue to produce products so that we could continue to feed the troops abroad. In becoming a war plant, we had badges that each of the employees would get. They would be fingerprinted. We had a metal fence put around the facility, which was unlike anything that had happened prior in any of the other wars, but was very, very important to what we did. I would like to showcase this Jeep. This is a 1945 Wiley's MB Jeep that has been fully restored and was actually a gift to us from a Spam fan who didn't want it to go to a car museum. They wanted it to go to somewhere that they appreciated, and they love Spam. So they sent it to us here at the Spam Museum. And it's just a cool indication of how many people have a relationship with Spam, unlike most foods, in my opinion. Then you'll see the picture above it, Spamville. Spam was eaten so much during World War II that actually one camp renamed itself Spamville because they had Spam breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I mean, it was just the way it was. But they'd rather have Spam than not eat at all. It's better than eating bugs, as one person said.
Much better source of protein.
Yes, definitely a better source of protein.
I'm impressed, to be honest with you. I'm impressed with the company itself, how innovative and progressive and how they keep changing themselves to adapt to new situations.
Yes. And a very good example of that, Sal, is that during during the Spanish-American War, George Hormel actually sent 3 of his workers to go fight in the war. And he said, "You are guaranteed your job when you return." That happened again in World War I and happened again in World War II. Today, that is a law. If you go and fight for your country, you are guaranteed your job when you return. But back in those days, that was not a law. They would have to, and so it was just a very absolutely always innovative, always forward thinking, and always thinking about what was best for their employees.
And I believe we were talking about this earlier with the cans from World War II were in black and white due to an ink rationing, correct?
Yes.
Yep. There we go.
Yes.
And Larry says, last question. No, Larry, keep the questions coming. You're doing great.
Keep coming. But so we're going to show you, this is Dwight Eisenhower. We are going to show you a letter he sent. And in this letter, now he served as a general during World War II, but he actually wrote this letter while he was president. And in this letter, he says that he is thankful for all of the Spam that was sent during the war, and he forgives us our one and only sin, and that is sending so much of it. But again, tongue in cheek, because they needed something to eat. And it was the cool thing about Spam, and we're one more exhibit away from talking a little bit more about this, but Spam is fully cooked in its own can from that ham process that we talked about in the last exhibit. That makes it shelf stable. When you're shelf stable, you are able, Spam has a 3-year shelf life. So you're able to take the can, open it up, and eat it right out of the can. You don't have to worry about frying it up. Tastes better fried, but you're able to eat it as it is. And that was hugely important for the troops.
Was there ever a resealable can?
There has been in Europe, there was a resealable can, but in the United States, according to the USDA guidelines, they do not like to have meat once opened remain in its metal container. So they actually do not allow for the resealable lid here in the United States. And they are changing their ways in the European and Asian countries for that same idea, that it's just not a good idea once it's opened to keep it in the metal container.
Yeah, I know. Not just for canned meats, but for any packaged product, once you open it introduces the possibility of bacteria growth.
Yes.
I've even seen that, unfortunately, sorry to say it, but for water bottles, like the bottles of water that we buy, and you use half of it, and maybe it sits in your car until tomorrow. Not great.
Just a question in demographics. Is there? I know Darren just came back from Hawaii, and it was very popular there, the Spam.
Absolutely.
And is there statewide? Do you have like a top 3 states where Spam is really prominent?
Absolutely. So Spam is definitely very, very popular in Hawaii. And then the rest, it's really broken up. I mean, the United States is so imbalanced in terms of state demographics. So obviously the larger states have a bigger consumption of Spam. Alaska is a fairly large consumer of Spam, simply given that they have the lack of ability to get to grocery stores maybe quite as often as we do here in the mainland of the United States. So Spam is eaten all over the world. But let's go into a little bit more of that international aspect. World War II is broken out, and Spam really does explode internationally. And we are going to talk about that here in this exhibit, where we talk about all the different places that Spam really has expanded to. You will see these red little pinpoints, or little red push pins, and those indicate all of the different countries that sell Spam. And it's amazing how much have really increased in the Asia Pacific area, and then as well as into island nations. And Asia Pacific is really specifically because of World War II. It went into, it followed the troops, was let out when the troops left those countries. They kept Spam behind instead of shipping it home, and they became much more comfortable with the idea of Spam, and it became extremely popular in some of those countries. And in island nations, if you think about an island nation in general, like Japan, for one, they don't have the land mass for pigs, for cows, so having that high protein food source other than having fish is extremely important. Guam here is one of the largest consumers of Spam. They eat around, I believe it is, Terry, I think it's 14 cans of Spam per person per year.
Well, we say 16.
16.
We've had visitors come in that swear that's very low.
Yeah.
So they love their Spam.
And that's simply because they don't necessarily, they have this love affair with it. But then also they just, it's just become a part of their diet, and having that high protein food source has been incredible for them. To the right here, Sal, is Hawaii. Hawaii being one of the largest consumers of Spam in the world. They actually fell in love with Spam.
I noticed in the previous, Yeah, I noticed in the previous can that we were looking at, it was spicier. Do you adjust? Do you adjust the cans according to where they're going?
Yes. And so there are, as I said, over 12 varieties of Spam, and different parts of the country like different varieties. So, for example, our jalapeno, very popular down in Texas. But our hickory smoke, very popular in like Tennessee. So it really depends on the part of the country, and different Spams are popular there. So here, we were just talking about that festival in Austin, Texas. There is a festival that's been going on for now 20 years called Spam Jam in Waikiki. It was started as a one-day festival, and actually started as a thank you breakfast to the Waikiki hotel staff, resort staff, to thank them for their year of service. And it was just this giant breakfast that they put on, and they always serve Spam. Well, it ended up turning into this one-day festival that has everybody trying different varieties of Spam and different ways of eating it. And they just, again, they're at about 12 to 14 cans of Spam per person per year. And this goes into that Spam sushi we were talking about. Terry, if we pick up that can over to our right or left, you will see a version of the musubi. It is rice with Spam, wrapped in nori, which is seaweed. So it's and Spam is fully cooked. They'll usually put a sauce in between the rice and the Spam. And this is what they serve at Hawaiian 7-Elevens, at their different convenience stores when you're picking up gas. They actually have a refrigerator right next to the rolling hot dogs that serve these Spam musubi. 200,000 to 250,000 Spam musubi are sold every day on the Hawaiian Islands. It is hugely impactful on the local economy.
Yep, I did my part. I bought mine.
Good. So Spam became popular in Hawaii following World War II when it was left behind after the troops left.
We have another question. It's clear that Spam is so popular around the world, but has Spam been to space?
I don't know if Spam's been to space. I don't think so. We'll have to work on that. It's in the Smithsonian, but I'm not sure it's in space.
It's in the Smithsonian.
Well, that reminds me of it reminds me of recently that Hormel Pepperoni went to space. So I would think Spam has been, but we better look into that.
I'll need to get confirmation on that. That is a great question, Darren.
No, came from a listener.
Yeah,
or a viewer.
I love these questions. Thank you for asking so many great questions.
Yeah,
so
we're very proud of our followers. They're really insightful.
They are 100%. So we're going to turn around here and we're going to look at one exhibit before we leave this international area. And we're going to look at South Korea. South Korea is one of the largest consumers of Spam internationally. They love Spam so much that they actually have created some gift boxes. And these gift boxes are given out during their Lunar New Year and their Thanksgiving. Now, in Korea, there are actually about 12 different Spam knockoffs. So if you can actually afford Spam, which runs about $8 a can in South Korea, that means you're doing really well. So to receive this as a gift during that Lunar New Year or that Thanksgiving tradition of giving out gift boxes, that's considered that you're doing really well. And that's considered a very nice gift to receive. They also have their own co-packer. There are 3 organizations internationally that make Spam. China has its own Spam facility. South Korea does, and Denmark for Europe.
I have to also say, all of these displays are beautiful.
Thank you.
Really, this museum, you really put the time, the thought, and the innovation into it.
Yes. So
and it keeps you interested, Darren.
Thank you so much, Darren. That's so kind of you to say.
It does. It's just very impressive. It's nice to see that kind of time and effort put forth.
If one of our viewers wanted to visit your museum, how much time do you allot to go through it?
We say anywhere between a half an hour and 2 hours. Depends on how much you want to learn about. Again, here's another picture of a Spam musubi from Japan. There's some question on whether or not Spam actually was introduced in Japan first before heading over to Hawaii. But yes, I would say between a half an hour and 2 hours. We definitely recommend doing a self-guided tour when you're here, but we want people, if they can and have the time, to take a guided tour. Any of the Spam ambassadors are available to do a tour at any point in time.
Pop, we have a question for you. How did you discover the Spam Museum to reach out to them?
I do quite a bit of research, and I found an article, and they named 10 unique museums in the United States, and the Spam Museum was number 1. And I found it fascinating as soon as I saw it. I said I would really like to visit this. Well, Darren, I've been looking forward to this trip for a long time.
Yeah.
The only thing that would make it better is if we were with you.
Yes, that is exactly true. Because then you could try a Spample.
Yeah.
A Singapore.
Do you have a restaurant in your facility?
Yes. There's Terry. She's going to have her picture taken. So we serve Spamples throughout the day here at the Spam Museum. We serve all 12 varieties and make sure that everybody gets to try at least 1 or 2 while they're visiting.
Wow.
Yes. So we're going to head over into the Spam Ballet. And this talks a little bit more about the 12 different varieties of Spam that are presently available, and then a little bit more of what is in Spam. So let's start with the different varieties. And this goes to your question, Sal. Spam Classic, Spam Light, Hot and Spicy, Teriyaki, Tocino. Tocino is a variety that was created specifically for the Philippines. And with the Filipino market, it is a sweet barbecue flavor. It's one of our sweeter Spams. Hickory Smoke Maple, which came out just last year. So yummy, tastes like syrup. Hot and Spicy, Turkey. And then one of our newest varieties that is not up on the board yet, which Terry is going to show you, which is Korean barbecue. And then I don't know, and I can show you the other variety that is new, and that is gochujang. Let's see if I can find. So she'll show you the Korean barbecue, and I'll show you the gochujang. Gochujang is only available right now at Costco. At Costco supermarkets. It's on a 6-month selling spree with Costco, and then it will go national.
Terry, you're doing a great job, by the way.
Yeah, it's all over the chat.
You.
People just compliment. Since we began right away, we knew you both were gonna be doing a great job.
Thank you.
And
So-
I wanted to mention on this wall, because a lot of people don't seem to know, but we also have a single. So we have a single packet that has just one slice of Spam in it.
Yep. And that's actually going to be Maple and Hot and Spicy are going to be 2 new Spam singles. Normally, it's just been Classic and Classic alone. And now we'll actually be selling 3 different types of singles. And that's for your quick, on-the-go person who needs something quick to eat. What is Tocino? Tocino is that Filipino variety that I was just talking about that is made. It is a sweet barbecue flavor that's just sold here at the Spam Museum. And then it's some very, very select Filipino grocery stores, and then in the Philippines as well.
And what was the Costco flavor again?
That is gochujang.
Gochujang.
I don't think they could see that, Sal, because the museum is pinned. So I can come and get a picture of that before we're done.
Sorry, I was showing it on my camera.
I know.
That's okay.
That would help anybody.
Here's a fun game. People play a fun game too. It's very hands-on here.
Yes, and that's the cool thing about the Spam Museum. It's very interactive, but it's great for all ages. You can have a 5-year-old come into the museum and have a good time. You could have an 85-year-old come into the museum and have a great time. But this is how we showcase how Spam is fully cooked in its own can. That part of the story needs to be told, so we allow people to actually take a can, make it, and then cook it so that they know it is fully cooked. Look at her doing this with one hand.
What a
This might
be harder with the label, but the label goes on it, and then you put it.
Go there, stop, then it'll show you my time. But in my time canning 1, the bottom number will show you how many are Austin Plant.
Yeah.
How many came off the line in 21 seconds.
My
That's
goodness.
wonderful. All right, we're going to end up on one last exhibit before we head to the Spam shop, and that's going to be the Spam wall, brand wall.
Don't you want it? Don't you want to know this?
Talk about what is in Spam.
Yes.
Sal's been asking this whole time, and I almost ignored him. Thank you, Terry. So these are the 6 ingredients in classic Spam. So it started with pork shoulder and ham. The 2 cuts of meat are very important. The ham is that rear of the pig, and then the pork shoulder is that truly important part of the pig that when Spam was created, it was a Depression time. And it was very, very important for them to utilize all of the pig. So that shoulder is a part that you can't get a slice of bacon off of. You can't get a pork chop. You can't, but you grind it up and it's very useful meat. So you ground it up with that ham portion, added salt, water, sugar, And then sodium nitrite. Sodium nitrite is what gives Spam its 3-year shelf life. And then potato starch was the very last ingredient that was added in 1999, 2000. And the reason it was added was it reabsorbs the moisture from the Spam. So if you think about any meat you've ever cooked, meat exudes juice. Well, if you're in a closed can, that juice has nowhere to go. So when the juice cools, it creates a little gelatin. And that's what would happen when you would open a can of Spam. You would have a little gelatin on top before you got to the actual meat. Well, people did not love that gelatin, let's be honest. So when they added that potato starch, it actually reabsorbs that cooked fat back into the meat, and then took away that whole idea of having that gelatin on the top of the meat.
It sounds like using breadcrumbs when making meatballs.
Exactly. Same idea. Absorption.
Yep.
Absorption. Yeah.
Wow.
Perfect.
We have a few questions here. What do you think is the most popular way people consume Spam?
We have an exhibit in here that showcases all the different ways that you can make Spam. The cool thing about Spam is you can have it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You can just cut a slice of it and have it with fried eggs. Or scrambled eggs in the morning, but then you could make it into a Spam burger. You could make it into Spam with fried rice. So we actually go, here's Terry with the how many Spam cans fall are you?
20 cans. Yeah.
He's got 20 cans.
Pretty good.
Again, fun for the family. Fun way for everybody to see what good things are to come of the Spam Museum. So we see it. It depends on the ethnic background of the person. Spam Classic and Spam Low Sodium are two still highest selling varieties because it's hard to get all of our 12 varieties into each grocery store. Usually they'll only sell around 3 or 4, but if there's a variety that you want, ask at your grocery store and they should usually be able to get a case in.
I don't see Spam Parmesan.
Yes, not yet. We used to have a Spam cheese. That's actually, it's gone through the ringer now and it's out of production at the moment. But yeah, I mean, there's so many different things you can do with Spam. But again, it does go back to what is your ethnic background, because a lot of individuals will just do Spam fried rice. Wow. And they'll do, or Spam with noodles. But you can put it in mac and cheese, so many different ways that you can do it.
Darren, we're going to have a Spam party.
Yeah. Well, you guys everybody can bring their own Spam dish.
We'll do a Spam tasting, Pop. Live Spam tasting.
Yeah, we can do that.
And so our final exhibit is going to be our brand wall before we head on into the gift shop. These are all the different brands that Hormel Foods owns. From the New York side, the one you might know the best is Applegate. That's out of New Jersey. That is an organic meat company that we purchased about 10 years ago. Some of these are our legacy brands. So they're the companies that we started out with, the Hormel chili, the Spam, the Dinty Moore stew, Mary Kitchen hash, Hormel pepperoni is another one. Hormel bacon is another. And then some of the companies we purchased over the years, and that would be Planters. Planters is a company we bought. I wonder how many cans tall Shaquille O'Neal is. I don't know. Planters and Corn Nuts we bought in 2021. Fontanini, best Chicago area meatballs you've ever had. They are just glorious. And then Chi-Chi's, Jenny O. Jenny O is a turkey company we own. We very much diversified our portfolio.
Oh yeah, you can't go wrong with a company that owns Skippy peanut butter.
Oh, 100%. So we, yes, Skippy peanut butter is another one of them. And you can go on to our brand wall and then learn a little bit more about each of the brands, watch some videos, some ads, different pieces of those puzzles.
Looking at that wall, I'm just comparing it to where we began with that Provision grocery store.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
And it's incredible. I mean, Anton Friedrich only wanted to do one thing. George had so many more ideas.
Yeah.
So many more. And it's so indicative of personalities that he just didn't want it to be a one-trick pony. He wanted to do it all, and he did it. Like, it's just incredible.
I know you said earlier this shelf life. We're almost out of time. A couple more
Yes.
questions I want to sneak in, maybe as we make our way to the gift shop.
Yeah,
You said the shelf life is 3 years.
it is 3 years.
Has it ever been more? And is there any way to even extend the shelf life further?
We like 3 years. We're very comfortable with 3 years. Would I say that I haven't heard of a person or two keeping a can 5 years, 6 years, and opening it up and having no issues? No, I would. But 3 years feels safe. Like, let's stick with the 3 years.
Is there a flavor that didn't that was taken off the market, or a flavor that you would have liked to have seen succeed that we don't have anymore?
We have seen a couple. This is the Spam shop that we're going into now. We try to spamify as many items as we possibly can to get. And wherever I go when I'm wearing a Spam sweatshirt or a Spam apparel, people, they stop me. They want to tell me their Spam story. They don't know I work for the Spam Museum. It's just amazing the connection people have with this brand. It's just absolutely very cool. Black pepper Spam, my favorite Spam of all time, was discontinued during COVID. We did have a cheese Spam as well, a chorizo Spam. Some of these will probably come back at some point, but that's when they brought in the Korean barbecue. They turn the rotation to keep people's interest alive, and I think that's wise. So yeah, I'm definitely still sad about black pepper.
I could see that.
Very
Definitely.
good. Very good.
And just for the record, Shaquille O'Neal is approximately 26 cans of Spam tall.
Wow. Can you just Google that and figure that out? That's just amazing. 26 cans. That's a lot.
26 cans. Yeah.
That
we
is a
can't
lot.
all agree on a unit of measurement between the metric system and so forth, but let's just adopt Spam.
Yes, Spam can be the way we go.
It's all
I
around the
love
world.
it.
You can always pull up a can of Spam and start measuring.
Here is our Spam Hawaiian t-shirt, or Hawaiian shirt. Again, that's Spam. We always give leis to our Spam visitors who come from Hawaii, because we do get quite a few of them. And the lei is a very popular way of welcoming people in Hawaii. So we've kind of transformed that to a Spam thing that we do here at the museum. And then that story, these are little piggy banks. We do have wine glasses, for example, that are Spam museumed. These are little musubi toys. So was that the musubi one? I can't tell.
Yeah, they're all musubi. They're just different varieties.
That looked like a kitty to me for a second.
They're hot and spicy.
Yep.
Okay, I should show them that. Go
Gochujang? Oh, yeah, I'll bring it out.
Okay.
And once we see this, I also want.
There it is.
Go. Wow.
That's
And
available.
that's, again, another Asian variety that's very, very popular.
Is there a catering size can of Spam? Or a party size?
And the Hawaiians hate us for that, because in order to make 200 to 250,000 Spam musubi a day, they have to open an individual can each time. And that only gets you about 7 or 8 musubi. So they absolutely hate us, but we just haven't done it. We've tried. And when she comes back in, you'll see we can show you an original size of Spam when it was a luncheon meat. But this is the museum downtown in downtown Austin. We were in the center of downtown. Happy Veterans Day to all of you veterans out there.
Yes, absolutely.
Let this be a great day.
The Provision Market. Provision Market.
That Provision Market we talked about, we're going to lose you now, Terry. But that Provision Market is that store about 4 stores in on that block, past those 2 white cars. So that's kind of fun.
Wow.
So it really was directly across the street where that Provision Market started.
Wow.
And that's when they were dirt roads and kind of crazy. Terry, there's Karen and Larry. Can you go over and show them the larger can of Spam from the history section? So it did come in a larger size. They have not reproduced this since probably the mid 40s.
You're
Even
talking about the luncheon loaf?
Yes.
Right down.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And that was what was more available at like butcher shops and things like that. But once you open the can, it's gone. Like you have to use it up. So it wasn't good for families.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the military, I've still not gotten a straight story on why they haven't kind of utilized that for larger groups.
Oh, look at this.
Spam labels.
What a beautifully designed museum.
Thank you.
Really well done.
Thank you for allowing us the time to tell us everyone our story. And we just hope that if you're ever on a road trip, ever make it to southern Minnesota, we are 1.5 hours south of Minneapolis, St. Paul. We are about 40 minutes from Rochester, Minnesota, the home of Mayo Clinic. We are about 2 hours from La Crosse, Wisconsin, and about 3 hours north of Dubuque, Iowa.
Okay. All right, Darren, it's time for you to take it away.
All right. Let's see here the spam.com/museum. That's where you can learn all.
Thank you, Henry.
There you go. Everything about spam, times, hours, location, frequently asked questions. Unbelievable history as we've seen today.
Oh, there's cookbooks.
And the cookbooks. Yep. I love. So the gift shop we were just visiting, they have a great gift shop online as well. A lot of apparel. But I was also happy to see that they have the products. So we could try those flavors.
So you can get the international version.
Exactly. Yep.
Including Spam macadamia nuts, which are only really available in Hawaii.
Ah. And I believe this is the Costco version. If anybody wanted to try, that's on there. Wow. Yeah. Oh, and Spam singles. You can also follow the Spam Museum on Facebook. Be sure to like them over there. If you're on TikTok, so are they. You can follow them on TikTok, YouTube. Be sure to subscribe. It looks like a lot of cooking and recipes, ideas. Spam with ramen, absolutely. Yes, all day. You can also follow Celebrity Museums. We're on Facebook as well as Instagram. You can follow us on there. And X. We're on X. Pop, what are we talking about today?
Let's see what we have here. I think it was there it is. How they painted Shirley Eaton gold for the motion picture Goldfinger.
Ah, that's fascinating.
You can also follow us on celebritymuseums.com. We have our map of celebrity museums around the world. Here we are today in Austin, Minnesota, but you can see all of these dots of museums that we have visited or wish to visit from around the world. And there's a lot more to add. So be sure you can check that out right at celebritymuseums.com. Here we are.
And if you know of any unusual museums that we're missing, send us a text or an email.
Absolutely. I see in the chat they're saying about Spam-A-Lot, the musical. Yes, I saw you had a poster of the musical standing up there. Next week, we're heading back to the Red Skelton Museum, one of our favorites, one of our very first virtual road trips, almost 4 years ago now. And lots of programs coming up for the holidays. Wow, incredible. Already taking us out to April is our latest one. If you have any questions past virtual road trips, you can click right here, past virtual road trips, and see where we've been and catch up on all of our adventures.
And they'll be able to see this particular road trip.
It'll be sitting right up there
on that page.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So
people were asking, when can we see it again?
Yes. Thank you both so much. Oh, Seville, I think you got muted by accident. There you go.
Thank you. This has been awesome, you guys.
Thank you for your energy and wonderful questions, everybody. Thank you so much for all the awesome questions. And thank you to Sal and Darren for being such gracious hosts.
Our pleasure. Have a great week, everybody. See you next time. Bye-bye.
As we say here, have a spamtastic day.
You too.